Hello and welcome to this video about my 1994 letters, which I'm going to explain just a little bit later. My name is Artur Rahimov and that's from my YouTube channel. So how my 1994 letters about KGB brainwashing method changed the world, why massacres, shootings, explosions, etc. You cannot understand this video. You would not be able to understand the ideas that I have here if you did not see my two previous videos where I posted numerous, more than 20, 25 or more maybe, events like kind of crazy coincidences that there are many crimes attached to my traveling, to my whereabouts and to my activities. So the typical example would be like I do something and I provided this like kind of evidence in my previous videos, and 2, 3, 5, 7 days later there is some massacre, shooting, 5, 7, 10 more people, 15, 20, 50 people killed, very often in close proximity, and the crime kind of resembles something what I did. So this is I explained in the past about like kind of what happens, and I outlined who could be behind that. But the question that I asked, that I received from many people was following: why do they do that to me? Like why these people organize crimes, like when I travel somewhere, when I arrive somewhere, etc., etc. Like you would be able to understand the method, how it works, again, only if you see my previous two videos. And I'm going to have here links so that you can have these two videos watched first. Then you would be able easily understand what I'm going to talk about next in this video. So the question which I want, so here these two videos from the past. So if you want, you can click them, you can see them. And the question what I want to consider now is following: what would happen in the world without my 1994 letters about KGB brainwashing? And what I did in 1994, I wrote first by hand about 30 probably letters, 30 copies I made, and I distributed them in consulates and embassies in Toronto, in Canada, where I immigrated to in 1994 from Russia. So, and this was also in 1994, later in 1994, I think it was probably in September. I even don't like exactly remember the date. And so what happens later, I'll describe letters in a second. Then I made about a week later a trip to Ottawa. So I took my car and drove all the way from Toronto to Ottawa, 300 maybe or more kilometers. And I printed letters because I discovered that there were many countries which I could not find representatives of in Toronto, because Toronto is the largest city, but the capital of Canada is Ottawa, and this is where we have the embassies, for example, for most countries, and that's why I decided to travel there. I had probably about also 30 printed copies of letters to largest countries. So in these letters, what I outlined was following: I outlined that KGB people possess a very powerful method which can convert any ordinary person, if conditions are suitable, into a zombie or robot, like to be completely brainwashed, so that these people can kill others, can kill themselves, can kill their children, their spouses, their parents, and so on. And of course, they would do anything that is ordered by the master, because like in this world where we discuss like zombies, robots, and we also have people who are called masters or zombie handlers, people like who kind of able to control the mind of another person completely. So I described this method, some details of the method, and then I described like various situations where how it could be applied. For example, I definitely wrote in my letter that, for example, a soldier or somebody else could take a gun and kill many other people, can kill their relatives, again, as I mentioned, children, parents, spouses, kill themselves. And of course, it would be extremely hard to solve this type of crimes. I also mentioned situations when people, like soldiers, can take missiles, for example, and shoot them into civilians. So, and can maybe target different groups of civilians, maybe some shopping malls or planes, etc., etc. I also described the situation. I remember that a pilot, if he's a zombie, could be ordered to kill the plane. So the plane flies and it was ordered by the master to commit this crime, to commit this suicide. Suicide would be suicide and homicide at the same time, and all people in the plane would be kind of instantaneously dead, as it happened already. How many? 3-4 times, I don't remember. German wings crash was certainly was most noticeable, most known in this area. I believe most people know about this one. And what I wrote later, the later part of the letter, I definitely wrote that it would be smart, like this is what was my suggestion, to inform your neighbors. This is what I thought about, you know, if there are countries, like I try to deliver letters to largest consulates and embassies like China, India, United States, of course, and then of course like bit smaller countries, Germany, UK, Spain, Italy, Latin America would be Brazil, Argentina, of course, Mexico, and several more countries, plus many others like Pakistan, Australia, etc., etc. I don't remember all the list. I did not keep the list. I just was, and sometimes I would go to small consulates and embassies, because often we are located just even like next to each other. Sometimes in multi-floor building, some floor you can see there is consulate embassy of one country, on another floor of another country, or if we are on the same street, we often you can see that this is actually consulate and embassy. Often you can recognize such places. So I wrote that it would be a very good idea to inform your neighbors, because I realized also that because with neighbors, you know, we have often have very strong flood flow of people crossing the border, going both ways, sometimes to visit relatives, or even some people go for work. You know, I knew many people who from Canada travel every day to work in the United States, for example. And I'm certain there are like hundreds of such borders around the world, where people need to travel like crazy number of people just go back and forth every day. And if there are zombies, of course, it would be like extremely dangerous if somebody protects their own country, you know. But we have a lot of people coming back and forth from another country. Like that's of course extremely hazardous situation as well. And then I wanted to write this part, but I actually do not remember if I wrote it, because my understanding was the ideal solution of this situation was just, of course, to inform public about existence of brainwashing, not about the details of this technique. Similar to, for example, a nuclear bomb or some other, like there are many extremely dangerous chemicals, bacteriological weapons, etc., etc. Those which could be forbidden by various treaties related to, for example, wars, because some chemicals like can be so bad, and some bacteriological and other weapons, viral weapons, can be like so devastatingly nasty that we would cause like extremely large damage. And that's why we are not used, even though we can exist. And some people like secret services, in my view, they could have easy access to this type of weapons as well. And so my understanding of this situation was again that I thought it would be safe for people to know, because how else you can explain, for example, to these people like policemen who have guns, soldiers, you know, pilots, and etc., people who have power who ride some vehicles, who drive some, and who fly like some planes, and etc., who like captains of the ships, etc. So in all these situations, you see, it's, I believe, the best, the most kind of convincing method to make them really safe in terms of like I mentioned in one of the videos, like to isolate the target. This is a really important part, so that to make brainwashing possible, and to isolate the target means you need some secluded place where this person could be brainwashed, and that's not easy, because practically thinking, you know, like people go, how could be isolated, like imagine how, if you want to make a zombie, or if you know like the method want to apply to somebody else, how you can isolate the target. You would probably need to find the place and to kind of seduce a person, maybe using medical drugs later, of course. But to seduce a person, how it could be done? People go for example, I don't know, let's say for drinking would be one option. Many males could be seduced this way, but for sex probably would be even more common, more likely way how a male would be willing to go, I don't know, to forest, to some other like secluded place where he could become a zombie. So without, of course, knowing that. But if people know, the situation is completely different. So that's why I thought I thought that it would be a good idea to include this in my letter, but I actually do not remember now if I practically did that. So that was, later I can maybe provide a little bit more details about that, because what happens later was absolutely strange, like in a way insane, because later I was blamed for some crimes which could be prevented with the method that I pointed out, at least like in my mind, and probably Secret Services from Canada, others, they may knew my opinion that it's best for public to know about existence of brainwashing, but not about the details, how it is done, similar to atomic bomb, nuclear weapons, etc., etc. So the question which I want to consider now is what would happen in the world without my 1994 letters, and my understanding is who else could inform the world about this dangerous KGB brainwashing technique, which was developed, I believe, probably during Gulag times, because KGB had unique situation when we had millions and millions of people, or guinea pigs basically, on whom they could experiment anything they wanted. And that was, I believe, the single most important reason why KGB was able to find this technique, not like CIA or MI5 or somebody else, because we just did not have so much material to experiment on or to experiment with. So that was the reason. And going back to the question, who else could inform other countries about this danger? And well, of course, only KGB people knew about that. And therefore, you would expect, okay, would KGB or Russian officials inform other countries about this technique in the 1990s, for example, knowing that some KGB people immigrated and settled in different countries in the Western world especially, and probably some other countries, and they knew about this technique. So the technique kind of leaked away. They did not have control any longer, control of these people, of former KGB people, because I don't know, probably some, I don't know, million, two or more people from Russia, from the Soviet Union, who immigrated abroad, moved like the same as I did in 1994 when I moved to Canada. And my answer to the question about would we tell to others, well, it's kind of probably would be most guarded secret that we use. We would sign, we certainly sign some agreements, and for them, disclosing this method to other people probably would be similar to death sentence, unless it's authorized from somebody from the very, very top. And then the question, okay, would people from very top authorize it? Hard to tell. In my view, probably not, because they were busy with many other things. 1990s were extremely turbulent time in the Soviet Union. You know, like 91, 92, Soviet Union collapsed. Then we started privatization. We had vouchers. You know, people were trying to grab like private property, always like from oil industry and other like places where Russia is known for very powerful export abilities to some like raw materials, forest, gas, as I mentioned, and oil, and some other like again minerals, diamonds, gold, and so on and so on and so forth. So therefore, my view is it's actually extremely unlikely. Probably KGB people can provide more information, like those who worked in the KGB in 1990s, because later it was renamed. Now it's I don't remember when exactly it was renamed. It was, I think, late 90s or early, like in the first years of the 21st century, where it was renamed into FSB, so Federal Bureau of Investigation, kind of almost like American federal, yeah, kind of, if we try to translate it to English, but it's called FSB now, and we can clarify that. But the question I have now, another one would be the following, because what happened, I believe, is following. I provided kind of a great moment of extreme frustration for those KGB officers who managed to develop and have very wide network of zombies already in, I don't know exactly when, 94, 92, maybe even in 1990 or before that, hard to tell. But somebody had, because I explained these events like fires, which like strange word, fires like house burned 100, 200 meters from my new place where I moved to. In many cities I had these experiences, I described it in my previous videos, and for a long time like I could not understand what is going on, like who was like making these fires, arsons. So the whole house like literally come and it's like ashes left, like it was just house yesterday, and house is gone. Like who would do this type of crimes? And so I believe this person had actually some kind of Napoleonian plans about the world, because with this technique it's like you can do a lot of, and this is what I proved in my these two videos, how much could be done, including like Beirut explosion and many other things as well, where it's like more than 1,000 people died like instantaneously in such type of things. And so what I did, therefore, as I understand, I provided at least some clues to Western secret services so that they can have this information to protect their countries better. And that was my major concern. And I believe I probably reduced the number of zombies by the factor of, hard to say, 3, 5, maybe 10 times. People who work in secret services, who know kind of statistical data about, like, we cannot know exactly, but we can approximately predict by the number of crimes, but what happened in their countries, like, etc., how many zombies we could have. I even now cannot tell exactly. I have some guesses, like for example, in the States, it could be hundreds of zombies or robots now ready to do all type of crimes, maybe thousands of them. And some other countries, maybe we have just dozens of them. And hard to tell if there are any countries left, because even like I follow a little bit the world and like how I travel and what happens, like even like some very small countries, like for example Malta, where I was, Maldives probably, I don't remember. We also had like this like weird type of crime when people kill others, kill themselves, for example. So hard to say if there are maybe some tiny countries still left without any zombies. But secret services, they do protect the world. Just in my view, I believe it could be done way better than it is done currently, and than it was done during like 30 years now, because this is now more than 30 years when I distributed these letters, and that's kind of was another thing for me, like to think, okay, what would happen otherwise? And otherwise, again, what would happen? I believe there would be many more, 2, 3, 5, maybe 10 times more zombies, and that in addition means there would be probably proportionally more deaths on the earth from this KGB officer. By the way, I did not even know that there is somebody else who used the same technique, because I lost a relative to this brainwashing when I lived in Moscow in 1994, and then this is the time when I realized I like witnessed so many families, family like divorces and numerous deaths of people, young people like in their 20s, 30s, and so on, and that's why like I knew only one group of zombies. And that was the person also just connected, like this person had a father working in KGB. And I did not know that there was somebody else, and probably there could be actually quite many zombie groups in different countries where other KGB people could use zombies, most likely just for money extraction. If you have somebody in the Western world and this person, let's say, owns a house, you can ask the zombie to sell the house, and that would be like quite a big amount of money. And I believe this is how other KGB agents could work, could behave in this way. But the person I'm talking about, who was actually hunted me with this crime, and this is like, again, I'm again asking this question, which I heard from other people. They asking me, why do we do that to you? Like why you are followed by these crimes? So my question is, first of all, this person, and I'm certain it's male, was extremely frustrated with what I did. So because I virtually destroyed his plans, probably many times more than any other agent which exists now or existed in the past in the Western world, and incomparably more damage created to this KGB officer by my 1994 letters. Just like people started to think like what could be done against that, and like to take first steps. But since then, of course, their methods, techniques evolved, surveillance cameras everywhere, etc., etc. So the world, in many respects, became safer. In other areas, hard to tell if it's safe or not, because we switched heavily on different terroristic groups and like mafia groups, for example, cocaine cartels and Boko Haram, probably, and many others who would be probably Haiti as well. Like if you follow what was the events in Haiti with all these gangs and so on and so on. So, but that would be like speculation, something else, which maybe I can. I probably would not have time to explain these events later. But what I'm talking about here is again. It's unlikely that KGB officials would inform the world, and then would be, of course, many more crimes, and even such things like, if you have seen my videos, I, for example, provided how swine flu was used to target Barack Obama presidency when he was a president of the United States, very in a smart way, because like if you can see my videos, you can realize that it was done like, yeah, with kind of quite large element of logic, of people who had brain to organize this type of things against Barack Obama, and basically to kind of to finish his presidency very fast with this type of techniques. Now responses, one question which I wanted to discuss now in addition to that, because I'm also thinking, of course, a lot about what happened later. For example, how I was in 1998 poisoned by Canadian secret agents with mercury, and how it changed my life a lot, how it changed my profession completely, because I moved to alternative health because of heavy mercury poisoning. But the thing is, I did not know about this until 2019. So it took like 21 years before I discovered that I was poisoned with mercury, because it's not something routine. You know, you can come to a doctor with liver failure, kidney failure, for example, as I had already by year 2000, 2001, and later with severe digestive problems. And they would do all type of things, but they would never test your blood or your hairs for heavy metals. It's not like something which are trained, doctors trained in. These are, first of all, a very expensive tests to do. So, and secret services somehow, this is what I found kind of very strange, fascinating, not fascinating in a way, maybe very sad in a way for me, because you can imagine like my relationship with, let's say, secret services, secret agents of different countries, which could be understood just separately. Let's say my relationship with the United Kingdom, like what I did for them and what we did to me, or with Norway, or with Germany, or many other countries which I visited during these 30 years, and that was a long list of countries. I don't know, maybe probably more than 30 countries or more I visited. And so this person, like me, provided them with information just because of being concerned about safety of Americans or Germans and other countries. Okay, and I did it just because of my consciousness and just my goodwill, you know, trying to help, trying to prevent crimes. This is exactly what I wrote in these letters, that I don't want these crimes to take place. And that's why I'm informing you that this is a very dangerous technique. It's the same like if there is a fire, you know, there are like trees burning on the very corner, and that can be like, and there are houses here, like thousands of people living, you know, and the wind is blowing now in this direction. So it's in a way similar, like some emergency extreme type situation. And so I just provided information to them. So and we can discuss now two type of things. For example, I want to discuss one thing is how many responses I got, and what happened later after I was poisoned with mercury. Did they kind of help me with my health problems or not, and how long time did it take, and why, and what were they kind of maybe thinking or concerns? So the first question is like, okay, I delivered about 60 letters, first in Toronto, then in Ottawa, to consulates and embassies, expressing my concern about these crimes. Question is, how many responses I got? And I never thought about this question for like more than 25 years, probably only during like very recent years, after like more than 25 years, I started to think that actually the situation that we have now, the roots actually are in the 1994 and 1998, and 1994 would give a lot of kind of understanding what happened during following 3 decades of time between me and secret services of different countries. Why? Because in 1994, again, I want to ask you a question. So imagine that a person in 1994 brings letters to consulates, embassies, like writing, okay, to whom it may concern. I never wrote like letters specifically to each consulate, embassy, so that they can copy them in large examples. This is what I did, and just deliver them fast, because it's like not my job, not my profession. I had some other busy with other things in my life, trying like to get job and learning English as well. So how many of them would reply to me? So what would be your opinion about that? So imagine 60 consulate, embassies, somebody drops in and handles to the reception a letter to whom it may concern, and extremely dangerous brainwashing KGB method, which can lead to very, very nasty crimes in your country. And I provided all these details in 4 or 5 paragraphs, as I described already, with 4 and 5 paragraphs. So how many responses do you think? I'm not talking about things saying like, oh, like, thank you very much, it's extremely useful for our country and so on. Even just saying like a thank you note, so that we don't say that it's even true that what you wrote, but thank you for your concern, thank you for being caring enough so that you wrote these letters, you know, you printed them, you brought it here to us, and then you, I also, as I told you, travel to Ottawa. Thank you for this, at least. Just a simple thank you note. So out of 60, what would be your opinion? How many of them would reply to me? If you want to stop video, if you don't want to hear my response, you can for 1 minute turn the sound up and think about it, maybe a day or two, and come later. But I'll give you my answer, a practical answer, what happened right now, and I believe that would help to understand what happened during following decades. I got actually only 1 response. Somebody wrote me thank you, and later I realized that it was probably consulate of a quite small country, where there was no even like real security people. It was actually 1 person who was handling everything, like visas, you know, and maybe some other group traveling, or like some cultural or sport like kind of interactions between countries. And so 1 out of 60. So that's one thing I want to kind of emphasize now, that more than 25 years later, I actually realized what happened later. It was already there. The following decades could be predicted by what happened in 1994, just getting 1 response from somebody who was not even in security world, not because in consulate, embassy, you know, we have hidden people who like watch cameras, who control everything, etc., etc. So that was one part. And what happened with me also very recently, like probably less than 2 years ago, like after like 28 years after I wrote this letter, I never even thought about that. The life for me, I'm certain, would be very, very different if I would try to sell this method as my intellectual property. You see, KGB people, we are bound by agreement. And if we sell it to somebody, we are like immediately criminals. We could be easily killed by other KGB agents, and we probably did it with many in the past. Like that's kind of how we function. Others, it depends how secret services work and so on. But it would be like extreme form of violation of rules. And secret agents, we have a lot of kind of, I would say, many of them very strange rules. I may speak about that later, because I found like the whole world, how we function, has so many misconceptions, illusions, people's illusions, and I had these illusions myself, many of them for more than 20 years, like fundamental illusions, how national security services work, how much freedom, for example, we have. Because let's say if I was poisoned by mercury, secret agents from Canada, from CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, from the neighboring area, because Toronto, metropolitan Toronto, you know, like it's many small cities, many of them just have the border like a street, you know, across the street and you are in another city. And secret agents over there, if I was poisoned by mercury somewhere else, we would behave themselves as we have nothing to do with that, you know. We are like prophets, angels, saints, basically. And we did not poison me. See, that's how we work. Because I found that very strange. Why? Because let's say if I have an account in Bank of Montreal or Bank of America, as I do, anywhere I go in the United States, I have the same balance. That's how they work. And in Secret Services, I realize there are many other things, such as, for example, if there is a different shift on weekend, I can get a totally different treatment from secret agents who work on Saturday and Sunday. And I noticed this like long time ago, and then later I started to pay attention and I realized that not always, but in, hard to say, 30, 40, maybe some countries, 50% of places, that would be absolutely true. All of a sudden, Saturday, Sunday could be completely different days, often most likely in the worst direction for me, but sometimes in a better direction. And the same I found about shifts, because I realized it's not like in movies only, like Men in Black, always, Matrix, etc., etc. We have just the same secret agents chasing the same target. And in reality, it could not be this way, of course. They have an 8-hour shift if they work during daytime. We have an 8-hour shift, maybe evening or night, or half night, whatever schedule they choose. And that means there would be completely different secret agents who would, for example, reacting to what I do and providing me with like certain signs, symbols, whatever activities what we want to provide. And I rediscovered that actually it's absolutely true. First of all, if I'm in another part of the city, in some places it could be extremely homogeneous. And it could be a huge city, many million people, and it would be exactly the same treatment that I get from these secret agents. But in some other places it would be absolutely different. So that means I would consistently get completely different response behavior of secret agents if I just cross some street and be in some different area, or I'm in just in a different time. So that I can write books about this, like providing so many examples. But going back to that, I could sell this method to secret services. And what I could do in 1994, I just realized again less than 2 years ago, I could go, for example, to US Embassy, US Consulate in Toronto, and I would say to them, I would come to reception, I know KGB brainwashing method, and I know an American who is now in America, and who gets instructions, because I realized that all these brainwashed people, they had the same type of behavior. All of them would get everyday phone calls from the master, who would ask them what happened and would give directions what to do next. That I found like kind of not normal for ordinary people to have, but they all had this. I myself realized this kind of also years later. But what happened, what could happen with me, I would come and say, like, you can check it, like this person from who was in the United States right now gets everyday phone calls. You can listen to them. By just listening phone calls, after a certain period of time, you should be able to realize that it's actually a zombie and that's a master from the Soviet Union calling to this zombie in the United States. So I can give you the details of this method, and you can pay me money because I consider it as my intellectual property. KGB, we are bound by agreement. We have like the own world. I'm a free person, so let's have a deal. I thought maybe I can like ask 1 million, 10 million. I don't know. I'm certain CIA spent way more money uselessly on trying to discover such a technique, which I provided them for free. So 10, I don't know, 50 million, $50 million. I don't know, I could probably ask them. I could also go to, for example, I realized Consulate Embassy of Sweden, because I discovered the cause of death of 7 young athletes who was in the same sport as me. So I was in sport orienteering, and by the way, my health was extremely like health and fitness was really good until 1998 when I was poisoned with mercury. In 1998, I qualified. I was a member of Canadian national team in ski orienteering, and I was selected to go to World Championship, which I passed, which I did not go to because I knew the strength of Scandinavian and let's say Russian national team. I knew personally all these people, so I knew that my chances there would be like. Of course, I would not be able to be probably at the first half of the list of results. So I would be like at the lower part. And just like a kind of, I did not see much sense, but I was a member of Canadian national team because Canada is a weaker country, so I was able to qualify for this team. Just telling about my good health, and when I was poisoned, of course, many things became impossible to do, sport as well, etc., etc. So I could sell this method to Swedish national security, because I would tell them, well, I discovered the person who is responsible, who was the cause of this 7 mysterious deaths of young males, of young athletes from the same sport where I was in the orienteering. It was very kind of big news, because it was mystery, nobody knew. All of a sudden, usually during, I think nearly all of them died just while training or while exercising or during competitions, just during training. All of a sudden, heart gave up, and they died. That's what happened. Nobody could understand why in this sport, why these people. So I could explain that, and I knew that there were still some zombies, some robots in Sweden at this time, from this specific person, not from KGB officer who had way more robot zombies around the world, because he managed to organize, of course, the ways how zombies can make new zombies, and so on and so on. So I could come to Sweden and say, well, I don't know, give me 1 million and I tell you the details, and you can now check out, I can give you the name of this KGB child who was there and who has zombies right now, because you can listen conversations and you can realize, you can see bank accounts, you can see what we did with the property and so on. So that was my, and of course I could go to Chinese embassy separately, independently, and ask, you want this method? Up to you, you can decide. Why it's so? Because what I realized, I provided them this information for free. And what I got later from them, well, I can provide maybe here some of the details, what happened later with me, because I told, like, 1998, I was poisoned by some of the secret agents. Secret agents could be very different too. Like policemen, all the time they would be involved, like, in some, like, very cruel, like, very kind of rough and unpleasant crimes, totally, like, kind of just showing that we like not able to control the emotions, or like just out of the blue, like killing completely innocent people. It happens all the time, even like in so-called Western democracies. So why it could not happen among secret agents? Absolutely normal, I think, event. The question is, how do we react to that? How we react internally, what happens inside the organization. And I realize here another kind of a very interesting law, because people who often the managers, official directors, or like top bosses of national security organizations, these are often people from politics. And we would not even have a clue about existence of brainwashing and zombies and so on. So you can understand that how it's possible to kind of get opinion or maybe final decision, kind of evaluation of certain tense situations by the top boss, by the top official. If this top official even has no clue that more than 90% of activities of secret services, of course, relates to this brainwashing or zombie crimes, which I'm talking about. So who else? Maybe we have, of course, local offices, because all these organizations, like CIA, for example, we have offices, usually by the state, but in California there are, for example, 4 different FBI branches, so 4 big offices in different parts, but mostly it's like for one state would be only one FBI office, Homeland Security, National Security. And maybe they could have, hard to tell, but what I realized here is, again, that if I would be able, and I believe it could be probably actually very feasible, very smart idea for me to sell this idea in 1994, because what I realized that I would have completely different attitude in the decades to come from the same secret services to whom I already sold this method, so that they pay money to me. Okay, then later, if I would arrive, I would have maybe in a way some kind of respect, at least like some kind of minimum respect, because what happened with me later is following. 1998, I was poisoned with mercury. Okay, CSIS agents started like wild snaps in any place where I lived. I moved one place, another, Toronto, Edmonton, etc., Manitoba. Very wild snaps, like if you take like objects, can sharp, loud snaps, like you branch, you crack the branch of a tree, like you can imagine dry tree, and you can produce this sound this way. But pencil, if you release it and it hits the table, for example, would produce similar type of noise. To create extreme sleep deprivation and like man-made noises, I invited police. No noises completely disappear. Police go away. Noises appear immediately. So I had this type of situation in 1998 because of that. What I did, I realized that I just can't live in Canada. I tried so many cities, everywhere was sick, bad. And so I took my things and I flew to Norway and I applied for political asylum there. And what happened there, fire started. Somebody started to burn houses very, very close to the place where I lived. I stayed in one place, houses burned like 100, 200, very close, meters away. I moved to another place, the same thing happened like just days later after I was transferred to another place, and so on and so forth. Question is how secret agents from Norway, for example, reacted. And that could be a separate topic. I can discuss this in great details because, first of all, Norway would be probably the most friendly country, because in other countries I got way worse treatment. We would start to play with my allergies, for example, create problems with my sleep deliberately. Other secret agents, even though everything that I did for the country, let's say I can speak about Germany or Mexico or United States, I provided them information about brainwashing for free. That's all I did. And then somebody else kind of tried to attach crimes to my appearance in this country. When I arrived there, I see this house is burned, and probably I realized they could have many people killed, like these zombies. I later learned that they probably try to convert into zombies former criminals, some violent people, because they become actually very, very efficient murder machines, like killers, assassins, because it's already in their psyche, kind of hatred of people, and killing them, it becomes kind of a joy, a game for them. And then I believe like it later became a war for these minds, so that to convert them, secret services, like we have secret agents, in prisons and so on, we try to convert them in the better side. And then when we are released, mafia, this KGB officer trying to make them zombies because we are very efficient murder machines. And if they are trained in addition how to use different poisons, and other things, it's crazy. That can be like, I don't know, some of them probably killed hundreds of people. I don't know. I don't have, because it's one-to-one crimes, and this, like, I never try to track those, because the people I killed like all the time, and most of the cases they would never report who did it and why. It would take some weeks, months of investigation, and later it would never be reported. Rarely would be reported. This like some very famous person is killed, etc., etc. So therefore, this is what I like, kind of another idea which like happened to me very recently, is that my life would be completely different if I would sell this technique in 1994 to these people. And then going back to my relationship, let's say with Norway, okay, let us like kind of formalize exactly what happened, taking away these crimes, because I did not commit them. So what exactly happened between me and Norway? In 1994, I provided them with free information about KGB brainwashing method, how and why like many people can be killed in Norway, for example, by zombies, by robots, with the technique used by some KGB officer. He can send other zombies to organize like a network of zombies. This I realized how they work. And first we try to get into communication, so that to intercept all this like electronic whatever travels through air, like emails, phone conversations, etc., because even banks and all this information goes through air. And if you can collect this information, then you can brainwash most skillful programmers, which were probably also in Russia. Russia was famous for like having extremely smart programmers. And then you have like the smartest people who can intercept any signal and convert it into something which is readable, something like real information, like as you see on your computer screen. And therefore, you see, that would be first step, and the second step is have other robots for other purposes. Some of them would be disposable, as I call kill others, kill yourself, as an example. Others would be like zombies who would just be assassins, as I described. Could be some other, like trying to get high ranks, high positions, and for whatever purposes, maybe in different organizations, etc., etc. But going back to my relationship with Norway, 1994, I provided them with information. Okay, I did not have any other interactions with Norwegian state, Norwegian government, Norwegian Secret Service. In 1998, imagine the same person who was provided them with 1994 information about brainwashing arrives to Norway and applies for political asylum. So what type of response you think would be reasonable to have from a Norwegian Secret Service? First of all, before going into that, I certainly realized that we were very fast were able to actually realize that I was poisoned with mercury, and those, hard to say, maybe 30, maybe 50 times more than the upper limit I had in 1998, because in 2019, when I discovered that in hares, it was 10 times above the norm. And during these years, I had a lifestyle which is really, during certain periods of time, actually close to ideal. Not like exactly ideal. I have another kind of health-related topic, how to detoxify from mercury, because I became an expert in this area, where I describe these details, what are the methods, like perspiration and using like certain substances like pectin, for example, fruit pectin, modified fruit pectin, extremely useful to detoxify. And chemical drugs, but drugs I found, 5 drugs I tried did not really help much, like very strong side effects. So Norway, I'm there in 1998. I got like crazy. I remember when I came there was strange, like I said, oh, you have like medical examination, we need to take blood, and we were pulling like huge amounts of blood, and I never get results back. Like, why we take my blood, why we don't give me back anything? And later I realized, oh, we probably like trying to figure out what was going on, because my liver failed completely in 1998 as a first kind of response from the body to very large mercury doses. I could not digest fats. And that was going on for probably 20 years. I could digest fats taking bile salts at maybe small amounts, maybe like in 2020s, maybe at the end of 2010s, when I was started like to eat kind of fats relatively small amount without negative effects. So this person is now poisoned by mercury, and we know it. I did not know it again until 2019, 21 years later. How we would behave, what do you think? What would be your opinion? Well, kind of, on the one hand, it's clear, like I helped them. I did not try it even. I helped them in 1994 tremendously by reduction of this zombie lot, which we would get in years to come. And now this person with poisoned by Canadian secret agents with mercury comes like confused and with liver failed, and 2-3 years later my kidneys collapsed completely. Okay, what we should do? Well, there is one factor here: zombie crimes, actually. So we did not like zombie crimes, and we knew that these crimes appeared because of me as a trigger. So I came there and the crime appeared. We probably did not care if we have zombies, but quiet zombies, just waiting kind of for the order to come. So we decided to get rid of me, and we started to apply various techniques, methods, relatively kind of friendly, because in other countries we would be much more kind of aggressive in relation to sleep deprivation, and sometimes using chemicals for all type of things, like create severe migraine and so on, like I had, for example, in the UK or Germany. So, and this is like the situation which I found, because there are no any other interactions. I did not do anything else for Norway. I provided them 1994 letters, being concerned. 98, I asked they help the government, and the people from national security. They knew about me being poisoned, and so there was another part of it. They did not inform the immigration officials that I actually was truly poisoned, and they would say, Canada is a safe country, it's a democratic world, should go back. We cannot provide you asylum, and what you have is your imagination. Mercury we did not test at this time, so of course, we provided the kind of also the idea. It was, I think, during my second asylum in Norway, 99 or 2000, that I actually should go to Ireland, because they told me, they sent me a couple, I believe, from secret agents, a family with 2 children, young children and parents, and they came to me and say, oh, like actually Ireland is a great country because you speak English, you know, you don't know Norwegian, you have to learn like new language, it's a bit very different language. And if you go to Ireland, we speak English there. It would be paradise for you too. So you think about going to Ireland. And this is what I did in the past. But the response I got there was kind of similar to what happened in Norway, because it was not me giving 1994 letters to Ireland. I act frankly like I don't remember exactly, because country is small. UK, I'm certain I provided information to the United Kingdom. But Ireland, hard to say, because countries again relatively small. So was it on my list? Like, did I visit this consulate or embassy in Toronto or Ottawa? I don't remember, frankly. So therefore, it's kind of. But we would, in my view, we should get this information from others, because they would realize that my concern is completely reasonable. That actually any country should have protection from this method, and not only that, there were events showing that some secret services did really very lousy job, because they were shooting, for example, in Armenian parliament, so already many years ago. You remember? I don't know if you follow events. The speaker and like the top leaders, like nearly the whole government was killed. Like I think 4 or 5 like gunmen came with automatic guns, and they like did not have protection. You know, like people like a bit crazy. Like the most important people of the country like sitting on the parliament session, and people with guns come and just kill them all. And kill like there are, I think, few maybe people from police like with maybe you know like small guns, and those like with heavy machinery. Like of course no way to resist, to protect the important people. And there was a similar situation in Nepal when the member of royal family killed all, I don't know, was 15 or more people. Like basically all royal family was killed, and I think he killed himself as well at the end. So that was, in my view, also a huge failure of secret services, not maybe even of the Nepal itself. But I don't know if they were informed. If they were informed, of course, it was their prime job to make sure that royal family is safe, because we were ruling the country. Like it's different than many other countries on the world. In Nepal, it was royal family. Now it's not anymore, because nobody left from the royal family. That's the thing. So and I don't know how could be some other events of the similar type, where those big failures by secret services, just because we always try to hide this information, so that like nobody knows, and they can kind of in a way play the game of people who know everything, and others like kind of fooled just according to whatever fantasies we get in their head. So that's why I'm talking about here now again that it probably could be a very smart idea for me to sell this method, and then I would have a very different life. And talking about again like what happens with me decades later, I probably would make another video, because this one is already nearly 1 hour long now, and talking about like what type of relationship were developing between me and different states, because Norway I consider as a very friendly state. I don't go there because of electricity problems, because this is what Mercury does. You have a lot of mercury, makes people hypersensitive to electricity, and we have cables running above your head between lampposts, even in Oslo. If you walk like just half kilometer, 1 kilometer from the central station in Oslo, in very, very downtown, like city center, we already have a lot of electrical cables, and villages, other cities, I've been there many places, we are even worse. So for me, it would be just really hard to survive. I have like kind of not country place, but having a place where I could walk safely, could go shopping, and could live in a place, having a room where I don't get electrocuted from somebody like, you know, turning on kettle, for example, like 10 or 20 meters away in the kitchen, because in North America this is the case. It's all drywall, it's like paper walls. And somebody uses an oven, and I could be very far away, maybe 2-3 rooms away, and I get a reaction just because we use these devices, very powerful electromagnetic fields. So the answer, going back to, like, sorry, I'm kind of, my mind little goes in different directions, but I believe it should be, I believe maybe for some people it could be interesting information what happened between me and different countries, and maybe I can continue this topic to develop, because Norway was the friendliest country, and so what we did, we actually kicked me out from the country. We did not inform the immigration officials that I was poisoned, and therefore my asylum case was completely legitimate, just political asylum, because I was poisoned and I did not have chance. And that was true. My health, they continue to destroy my health in Canada even until this year, 2024. It's just different Secret Service. Of course, we have different provinces where I was, and I tried to settle there, but because of electricity, we were much friendlier. I could settle in like Nova Scotia, other places, New Brunswick, for example, but because of electricity problems, I just could not survive, could not go shopping there. So, and the same as British Columbia, Vancouver, and other places. So therefore, going back to the kind of maybe wrap up to conclude this video, I can maybe point out another important detail why this KGB officer decided to organize crimes attached to my whereabouts, where I travel, where I go. As I told, first of all, I believe I provided more frustration to this person than any existing secret agent. Probably if you take even 10 or more secret agents, I don't know, could they provide the same amount of damage? Hard to say. It's difficult to say. Maybe there are some technologies we develop, maybe development of these techniques. Hard to say. It's like a long topic. But what also another factor I believe is really true, this technique, what he decided to do with me, organizing crimes related to, again, my whereabouts, my video uploads, and even my haircuts or what I ate and so on, like kind of using these details to organize crimes, it's actually probably most effective survival technique. And how it works is following. It relates to psychology. It's kind of hard topic of psychology, maybe high-level psychology. So I studied sports psychology and used sports psychology for many years. I was teaching also myself for many years. So I kind of got educated in these areas. But how it works is following. You know, secret agents, we work as detectives, and we have potential people who could be related to this KGB team, you know, team of this KGB officer who could be, I sometimes call them mafia people, like the mafia, the real mafia, the top mafia which organized COVID, for example, pandemic in my view, swine flu and some other outbreaks, and a lot of other, like Beirut explosion and many other things if you watch again videos what I made in the past. And therefore, what I want to explain here is that this technique, what happens is following, like, for example, exactly as with Norway. Okay, I appear there are crimes, all of a sudden there are many crimes, many people die, or in Germany, United States, Mexico, whatever. What happens next? They don't like me because we see, actually, I was a trigger of these crimes, I did not commit them. But we know if they get rid of me, if they move me out of the country, that would stop. Because while I'm present, there would be many new crimes, new victims. Often they would kill children, they would kill like teenagers, and so on and so on. Women, anybody. Because for this KGB person, again, his goal is his personal survival. And how it works is following. This is like the psychology topic. Because the same secret services, the same secret agents, let's say from Norway or Mexico or United States, any other country, Germany, etc., they are the people, they are the only people who are able to find, to detect this network of people, network of zombies, to discover them, to deactivate them. Like, it's similar to quarantine as I view it. It should be viewed as similar to, like my mother did all her life, because my mother for many years worked as a chief doctor of our regional epidemiological center, or control of like of contagious diseases. And that was her job, to go to establish quarantine, to isolate sick people, to prevent spread of the disease so that healthy people can remain healthy. And I believe Secret Services must work with similar goals, similar targets, similar methods how to measure their efficiency. That should be a very important part as well, because this is what we do in epidemiology too, with doctors, like when there are all these awful outbreaks of all these diseases. Some of them can be crazy contagious, crazy lethal, like 70-80% or more people die. Like there are all type of viruses or bacteriological bacterial diseases. And so but for the secret agents, going back to, okay, when he commits these crimes and they kick me out, and these are the people who kick me out, they are supposed to find these networks of robots, zombies, who are zombies, where they are, which tools they use, how they communicate with each other, etc., etc. How they communicate with the center, we don't know that. We don't know who and where this KGB agent is, because this is only one person who now created so much havoc, so much damage in the world. And my answer is following. It relates to psychology, because I myself, I was a winner of many competitions in math, regional competitions in math when I was 12, 13, 14, like teenager in my early teens. And I know that I had sometimes extremely tough problems. So it may take me days, 1, 2, 3 days. I had problems which would take me 3 days to think about before I know the answer. And these are not like where we involve many numbers. Often these are numberless, without numbers, like logical problems where you have to apply logic only. And the question is very interesting, of course, type of problems. And the question is, okay, how I would solve this problem. And I realized actually it often happens during sleep, because you are so obsessed with the kind of to tie the jigsaw kind of together puzzle, pieces of jigsaw, you want to put them together so that they match, because you have many pieces, many strange things going on. This is how I discovered Brainwashing in 1994 as well. And the question is, would these people who kick me out be able to discover this KGB person because they kicked me out? This is exactly the question which I realize is the key event here, which prevents discovery of this KGB officer with his network of zombies. Why? Because if they kick me out, we already have the answer. We have the solution to the problem. The solution is me. And if they kick me out, that means that the unconscious, subconscious mind who is to solve this problem will not be able to solve this problem at all. And my understanding is, even though we would have these zombies, robots, next to them, sitting next to them, walking around them, we would not be able to discover them. This is how human psychology works. As soon as we do anything against completely innocent person, like me, for example, because I did not commit any of those crimes, the unconscious, subconscious mind is automatically geared towards this solution. So we will not be able to discover, even though, again, as I told, the answers could be right under your nose, and we would not be able to discover it. That's the way how it works in psychology. So if you start punishing an innocent person, this is the price to pay for your punishing innocent person. You know the answer. And this is why this KGB officer is so eager, kind of, as I told you before, for example, my mother asked, what did you eat? I had some tomato salad. And a week later, there is a truck with tomatoes in which 50 Chinese illegal immigrants are suffocated to death. Because we had this, and you see my hair's cut, maybe as short as I have now. And 1 week later, when I was in California, in Long Beach, there is a hair salon massacre. Many people killed. And we try to attach, take events from my life so that we pay attention. We see, actually you see. And what happens next is following. If there is any crime is committed, we try to see the link, what happened in my life and why this crime took place. Not who did this crime, not who were organizers of these crimes, but what happened in my life so that it caused this crime. This is how the mind starts to work. And that's why I believe it's just completely ineffective work of secret service, secret agents. As soon as we start punishing innocent people, and that would also relate, for example, people who are working in the Buteyko briefing community. If we start to limit them, to provide them, this is what I found another, like kind of to restrict, to limit, to give them maybe different patients, to limit the progress of the students, and again, to create all type of obstacles, problems for them. As soon as we start doing that, again, we are useless as detectives for their main job. And they can control anything. They can control all locks, devices, all electronics, all signalizations of cars, like gates, etc., etc. That would not solve anything in relation to the finding zombies, finding the KGB officer. So that's why, going back to this like second part of the answer, I suggest here in this video that this is an ideal or optimum survival technique for this KGB officer as well. He's not only punishing me on one sense, but he is also redirecting attention of people who are to discover him from him to me. So we are not able to do the job, not able to do the job, which is possible to do probably even with the approach, which is again based on the idea only because the behavior again completely different from what I thought would happen. My understanding was people should know about brainwashing, even ordinary people. Why not? Because ordinary people, if we brainwash them these days, you notice, if you pay attention to news, there are many these type of crimes. We don't have guns any longer. We can take knives and start stabbing. This is happen again and again. And then they can stab themselves if it's ordered to them to do that. So, and that's why, again, like, ideal survival technique, and that helps this kind of system continue to work already more than 3 decades now. And I do not see the end, because that's just how it functions, how Secret Service world works, and I can provide a lot of other numerous other details, things related to work of modern secret agents. But that part again, just about my 1994 letters and how events from 1994, late in 1998, and when I was again with Mercury, and then I applied for political asylum in the UK, in Ireland, in Belgium, in Finland, different countries, and you would expect, well, I helped these countries to reduce the lot from zombies, from robots, and then this person arrived with Mercury. Would we say to this person, "Oh, sorry, you're sick with Mercury. Maybe you need to take good care just about these things, because being blind for 21 years certainly reduced my efficiency, how I work. Should I know it in 1998? Should somebody like calmly come and you have like extremely high level of mercury, just take care about your health, see what you can do, see what you can find, because that's your future. Like you need to survive, see how you can." Instead of that, they kept it hidden and trying to send me somewhere else. The grass is greener, go to there, go to there. That was going on for a very long time. So that was my 1994 letters, and I don't know, maybe if I get chance, if opportunity to discuss similar topics like related to reactions of secret agents from different countries, maybe I can continue this topic, I don't know, but seems to be I explained most important ideas related to that. So thank you for watching, goodbye.